Hello, everybody. Welcome to Marriage Mondays. I'm Jonna Wise. This is my amazing husband, Bryson Wise, and we are your fabulous marriage coaches. How are you guys doing today?
Happy Monday Fun Day.
Do we look sleepy? Do we look tired at all?
Maybe a little bit. We just got back from an amazing leadership summit in Chicago, and we're still kind of catching up sleep-wise. And
Hey, Felicia, how's it going?
yep,
Yeah, we're a little sleepy.
the three of us.
Yeah.
at a
Did you
time.
say the Global Leadership Summit?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I was in Chicago at Willow Creek Association Church there, huge church. Great
Yes.
stuff, great speakers, great teachers. It was like drinking from a fire hose for a couple of days, and
Yeah.
it was great just because they talked a lot about, they didn't talk specifically about marriage, but they talked a lot about prioritizing your family, which includes your spouse, obviously, in your business and in being a leader. So it was
Yes.
amazing. Highly recommend that. And that brings us to another conference that we are totally excited about.
Yes, so we're all excited that you guys are jumping on and just being part of this because, like we said before, you guys, this isn't really about us. This is about what God has done through us, that has really helped us through our marriage because it hasn't always been easy. It always hasn't been perfect, and it's been kind of messy sometimes. And so we are putting this content out there because, God has done a great work in our marriage, and we want to share it. We don't want to hide it. We want to be able to help others and feel inspired and feel encouraged that you can have a great marriage too, right? I know it takes work. I know it takes grit, but it's worth it, you guys, when you fight for it. But with that, we wanted to talk about, again, the Marriage Matters Hope Conference that is coming up in October. It's in Colorado. If you are not in Colorado, we would love for you to come out to this Marriage Matters Hope Conference. It's the 13th and the 14th. Friday night is date night. There will be entertainment and dinner, so you'll get to laugh and hear one of our gentlemen sing. He's got an amazing voice. And then Saturday, that's where we bring the content in, you guys. So buckle up, Patootie, because it's coming like a freight train.
Yeah. And again, that's October 13th and 14th. So
Yeah, so we'd love to see you guys there. Bryson and I will be there as well, and it's just going to be great stuff. Sue and Mark Bridgman have put on this, conference for Northern Colorado to reach marriages because we want to see marriages thrive in Northern Colorado and especially in the United States and all over the globe as well. That is our dream, to see marriages just thrive for God's kingdom. So what are we talking about today, my love?
So today we thought we'd bring you something a little different. We've studied a lot about personalities and love languages and obviously male and female. So those things all play into your marriage, but we're going to talk specifically about personalities and the love languages. So
Yeah.
we'll start with the love languages. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages. If you have not read that, highly recommend that, or at least listening to it. But it's by Gary Chapman. Great book that talks about, basically there's 5 different ways that people need to be loved.
Yes.
One would be acts of service. That would be things like doing dishes, doing laundry, buying something for somebody,
Vacuuming the floor.
vacuuming the floor, those kind of things. So that's one. Number 2 would be gifts, which again, that's buying gifts for somebody, those kind of things. Number 3 would be
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. So that's building each other up, using kind words. On the flip side, again, there's a negative side to these love languages too. When you do the opposite effect on those people that have those love languages, it actually hurts worse than it normally would. So for words of affirmation, it could be, demeaning words, those kind of things that can actually hurt pretty bad.
Cutting them down.
You got it.
Yeah.
Physical touch is one. Obviously, that's any kind of touch, sexual, non-sexual, those kind of things. So that's another one. And then
Quality time.
quality time.
Yes, that's one of my favorites because I am quality time.
You got it. And that's basically just literally that, just spending time with each other, sitting, talking, having dates, those kind of things. So again, the key is to these is not just knowing them and not just knowing what you are, but also knowing what your spouse is.
Yes.
Because that's really what this is about. A lot of people don't know their own, and so we recommend getting to know your own first, obviously. But then right after that, you need to get to know your spouse's love language.
Yes, that's golden.
Yeah, because again, what we do a lot of times is we'll love our spouse in our love languages,
Yep.
So if I'm a gifts person, I'm giving her gifts. I'm like, hey,
Yep.
hey, I'm hooking you up.
And that's not going to do anything for me. I'm like, hey, cool, I'm getting all these gifts, but it's not filling my love tank of whatsoever.
And then 5-10 years down the road in our marriage, she's feeling empty, unloved, you know, and wants out.
Because
And it's because she's empty.
Because mine's quality time, but he's giving me gifts. So do you see how that works? That sometimes if you're doing the opposite, it's not going to work in your favor. You have to really physically see and talk to your spouse of like what they need. So like with Bryson, it's physical touch. He just wants me to like put my hand on his shoulder, acknowledge that he's there. It's not sexual. And, or maybe in church, put my arm around him and be like, hey babe, you know, I love you. It's something that, you know, and this could be for your wife as well. And, you know, you have to figure that out. And it's not your love language that you're pouring out. You have to figure out what theirs is, so that way you are pouring into them.
Yes. Thanks, Felicia, by the way. Appreciate that. Thanks for sharing.
Yep. And we'll get you all the info and we'll put this out there.
But yeah, so I think that's a lot of the trouble a lot of times is we're basically speaking a different language to each other, and then we get frustrated, like, why can't you understand what I'm saying? You know, I'm speaking German, she's speaking French, and yet we have a disconnect, and we wonder why 10 years down the road we're like strangers in the night, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. Get to know each other's love language. There is a survey. I think he's got a bunch of different surveys on his website, so highly recommend going to his website and taking the survey.
Yes.
Just a quick survey to get to know who you are, and then encourage your spouse to do the same, so you guys can start speaking each other's love language. So another important part, though.
But that's great. That's great info. Thank you for sharing that, because we do need to be able to figure out each other's love languages and know what's going on, because a lot of the time it's our very thing that it's our opposites that attract us. So this is where personalities come into play. And we're like, oh, this is so awesome. We're just so great. And I don't really care. It's cute. And then 5 years down the road, you're like, oh, you're like, why do you do that? It's so annoying. And then all of a sudden, hey, how's it going, you guys? And then, you know, the wives are getting together and you're like, guess what my husband did? And he said this and he's doing that. And then the husbands get together and they're like, dude, guess what? You know, it's like my wife said this and then she's doing that. And what does it become? It becomes this negative feed that they're feeding. Instead of fixing your marriage, you're getting with the opposite, and it's a negative party. There's no great positive piece that's being spoken into this, and that does nothing for your marriage. When you're getting together with people that are not speaking positive, encouraging things into your marriage, what does that bring into your marriage? Death. It absolutely does. I'm sorry. It just does. And so if you're hanging out with people that are not encouraging you about your marriage, and maybe you are being negative at the time because you're going through a rough patch, and that's okay, but you need to get together with somebody that is going to give you encouragement and hold you accountable. And maybe they'll challenge you and go, hey, stop talking like this. You're better than that. Let's figure out a solution to make your marriage great, right? So if you're hanging out with people that are just being like, oh, I know, I totally get it, girl. You don't need him. Girl, you need to find a new girlfriend. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So, and especially with the guys too, you know, if you dudes are hanging out and he's not helping you out and he's giving you negative stuff, find a new guy, dude. Go hang out and do something great, because that is not helping your marriage. Because in the end, it's not about your dudes and your ladies. It's about you two together, right? Because in the end, it's about you two. That's why you guys came together in the first place. You didn't say I do with your best friends. You just didn't.
You got it.
So with that, with personalities, we're going to put a little piece in the comment section a little bit later on personality pieces. It's based on colors. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it.
Amen, Mark. Sorry.
What did he?
Oh, he says, bad company corrupts good character. You are correct.
Ah, word. That's awesome. Love that. But there is a color, because I know there's different pieces that maybe you guys have taken based on personalities. You know, there's a disc, there's animals, and then there's one that's based on colors. So this one that we really love, because it's simple, and you guys can take it too. I'll put it in the comments, and you guys can maybe figure out each other's personality pieces, because maybe you guys are struggling to really figure out your dynamic of your personality. Because if one is really kind of quiet and shy and reserved, but they love serving and doing great things, they're a yellow, okay? Yellows love to help people. Yellows are usually quiet if they're in a group setting. They won't really say a whole lot, but then when they do say something, it's going to impact a punch. But sometimes that can be a downplay because they don't engage in quickly, and it might take them a little bit longer to do something because they're processing. And then there's another color called a green. Those are your like engineer, number people, and there's nothing, or and details too, and there's nothing wrong with that because we need detailed people and numbers. But if your husband is an engineer and he loves numbers and he's all about organized, and like this it goes over here and then it goes over there, and then if you move it, watch out. They're like, it goes like this, right? Because you moved it. That's their personality. Because if it's rubbing you the wrong way, because you're just like, I like things here and there and messy and all over the place, and you're like, oh, man, you're making a mess, and I just had the house all cleaned up. What is wrong with you? And it's just their personality. You have to figure it out. And it's not because they're choosing to be rigid. It's just that it's their personality, you guys. And so a green likes organization. And then there's a blue. Blues are the life of the party. They're the last to show up and they're the last to leave. They love hanging out with people, and they just encourage people. They bring life everywhere they go. They have a smile on their face. Do you know somebody like that? Maybe that's your spouse, because I know my husband's a blue. And he just has a smile everywhere he goes, and he loves people. He loves hanging out with it. And sometimes with blues, they're not always organized because that's their downfall, and that's okay. But you just have to figure out their personality piece. And you're like, okay, why are you so messy? Like, can't you just pick up your socks? Like, what's wrong with you? But it's their personality, okay? And you have to learn to work together, because maybe you're a green and your spouse is a blue. And what is that going to happen?
It's all cool at first, and it's like, oh, they're so cute, and they're my opposite, and it's great. And then a couple years, even first year of marriage, you're like, you drive each other crazy. Real quick.
Because it's your personalities.
Yep.
So if you guys figure out your personalities with your love languages, you guys, your marriages are going to go a little bit smoother. You're going to go from the Ford Escort on the dirt road to maybe having, an Escalade on paved highways. It's going to be a little smoother, and you're going to enjoy the ride a little bit more. But it's just a matter of figuring it out. And then there's one more color. It's a red. Red are your doers. They want to get things done. And they... and they're kind of bossy sometimes. And and they're not afraid to tell you how it is. And that is their downfall sometimes, because reds need to learn to zip it. They're your leaders. They're your natural born leaders, because they're not afraid. If somebody's not stepping up to the plate to do something, then they're like, hey, I've got this. What do you want me to do? I'll get the team together. We'll rally this together. And they're great about circling people together. And reds are usually kind of abrasive. And so we have to learn to work on that. So maybe if you're a red and your spouse is a yellow, that can also go, right? Because you're your opposite. So if you are a loud red